Listen carefully. Don't rush this. Because what I'm about to tell you, it doesn't sound real. In fact, if someone told me this story a few months ago, I probably wouldn't have believed it either. But it happened. Not somewhere far away. Not to someone else. It happened. To me. I've always lived a simple life. Not the kind you see online. No luxury cars. No big house. No attention. Just quiet days. And even quieter nights. No drama. No unnecessary conversations. No interest in other people's problems. Because I learned a long time ago, peace is expensive. And the only way to keep it is to stay out of things that don't concern you. My world was small. But it was enough. More than enough. Just my land. My cattle. And my peace. That land. It wasn't just dirt. It wasn't just a piece of property on paper. It meant something. It was something I built over time. Slowly. Patiently. With effort that no one else saw. Every fence post I placed. I remember the day. The heat. The sweat. The time it took. Every corner of that land. I walked it myself. Measured it. Protected it. Every inch of it. Had a story. And every story belonged to me. Mine. Not shared. Not borrowed. Not claimed by someone else. Mine. Right next to my land. There was a neighborhood. A completely different world. Clean streets. Perfectly paved. No dust. No noise. Big houses. The kind that all look the same. But cost more than they should. Perfect lawns. Cut evenly. Watered daily. Maintained like a display. Everything looked controlled. Organized. Planned. And of course, an HOA. If you know, you know. Rules about everything. What color your house should be. How tall your grass can grow. Where you can park. What you can build. Control. That's what it really was. Now me? I had nothing to do with them. I wasn't part of their system. I didn't attend their meetings. Didn't follow their rules. Didn't ask for their approval. And honestly, that's exactly how I liked it. Because I've seen what happens. When people think they can control everything. For a long time, we stayed out of each other's way. They stayed on their side. I stayed on mine. No problems. No complaints. No conversations. Nothing. And that's how it should have stayed. But life doesn't always stay simple. Sometimes, it changes without warning. And when it does, it doesn't ask for permission. It just happens. Until one afternoon, everything changed. I remember that day clearly. Too clearly. The sun was high. Not a cloud in the sky. The air was still. Quiet. Almost too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels normal at first. But later, you realize something was off. I was walking along the edge of my land. Just a normal check. Something I always do. That's when I saw them. A few men. Walking along my property line. At first glance, it didn't seem serious. But then I noticed something. They weren't just walking. They were measuring. Stopping every few steps. Looking down. Writing things. Talking to each other. Then placing markers in the ground. Small flags. Bright colored. Easy to notice. One after another. And the way they moved. The way they spoke. It was like they owned the place. Like they had every right to be there. That didn't sit right with me. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Wrong location. Wrong land. Wrong assumption. So I didn't react aggressively. I walked over. Calm. Controlled. Respectful. And I asked a simple question. What are you doing? One of them looked at me. Briefly. Not with concern. Not with confusion. Just a quick look. Like I was someone passing by. Like I didn't matter. And then he said something. That didn't make sense. We're preparing for the community pool. For a second, I thought I misheard him. A pool. Here? On my land. I actually smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it felt ridiculous. Like a misunderstanding that would be cleared up in seconds. A pool. I said. On my land. But he didn't smile. Didn't correct himself. Didn't explain. He just looked at me. And said something that changed everything. You'll need to talk to the HOA. That was it. No explanation. No apology. No hesitation. Just that. And in that moment, something felt wrong. Not confusing. Not unclear. Wrong. I stood there for a few seconds. Watching them continue. Measuring. Marking. Planning. Like I wasn't even there. Like I didn't just question them. Like my presence meant nothing. Eventually, I walked away. Not because I accepted it, but because I needed to think. I went home that day, but I couldn't relax. Something stayed in my mind. That sentence. Community pool. On my land. It didn't make sense. And the more I thought about it, the worse it felt. Something wasn't right. And deep down, I knew. This wasn't over. The next morning, I woke up early. Earlier than usual. No alarm. No reason. Just a feeling that something was happening, that I needed to see it for myself. So I got up. Didn't waste time. Didn't overthink it. And I went straight to the land. And when I got there, I froze. Not because I was confused, but because now, everything made sense. Machines. Big ones. Heavy ones. Loud enough to break the silence completely. Bulldozers. Trucks. Workers everywhere. Moving fast. Working efficiently. Like they had a deadline. Like this was planned long before I even knew about it. They weren't measuring anymore. They had started. That moment. Hit different. Because now it wasn't a possibility. It was real. I ran toward them. No hesitation. No calm approach this time. Waving my arms. Shouting as loud as I could. Stop. This is private property. But no one stopped. Not a single machine slowed down. Not a single worker stepped back. Some of them looked at me. Briefly. But then went right back to work. Like I was nothing. Like my words meant nothing. Like my land wasn't mine. It was like I didn't exist. And that feeling, that moment, when you realize people are ignoring your rights, ignoring your voice, ignoring you completely, it does something to you. Something deep. Something that doesn't go away easily. That same day, I didn't wait. I didn't sit down. Didn't calm myself. I went straight to the HOA office. Walked in. With one goal. Answers. There was a woman at the desk. Calm. Polite. Too polite. The kind of polite that doesn't feel real. I told her everything. From the men. To the machines. To the construction happening right now. I told her clearly. That land was mine. She listened. Nodding slightly. With a small smile. And then she said something that made my blood boil. That area is part of our development plan. Just like that. Like it was already decided. Like my ownership didn't matter. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I placed my documents on the table. Clear proof. Ownership papers. Boundary lines. Every detail. This land is legally mine. She looked at them. But only for a second. Just a quick glance. And then she said, "You can file a complaint." That's it. No apology. No concern. No urgency. No order to stop construction. Just file a complaint. In that moment, everything became clear. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mistake. They knew. They understood exactly what they were doing. And they didn't care. Because in their mind, they had already decided the outcome. They believed I wouldn't fight back. That I would get tired. That I would give up. That I would accept it. And that's where they made their biggest mistake. Slow pause, lower tone. Because what they started, they had no idea how it would end. They didn't stop. Not for a second. Not for a moment. What started as a small concern turned into something much bigger, much louder, much harder to ignore. The next few days didn't feel like days anymore. They felt like noise. Endless. Unstoppable. Noise. Machines running. Engines roaring. Metal clashing against metal. Voices shouting instructions. Orders being given. Work being pushed forward. From early morning, before the sun fully rose, till sunset, when the sky turned orange. They kept building. No breaks. No hesitation. No sign of slowing down. It was like they were in a race. Like they were trying to finish something before I could stop them. And maybe that's exactly what they were doing. I tried everything. I didn't just stand there. I didn't just watch. I stepped in. Again and again. Talking to workers. Trying to reason with them. Explaining clearly. This land is private. Some of them listened. Briefly. Some avoided eye contact. And some just shrugged. Like it wasn't their problem. I called out supervisors. Louder. More direct. Who's in charge here? But every answer led nowhere. Talk to the HOA. Again. And again. And again. Even when I pushed harder. When my tone changed. When my patience started running out. The response never changed. Talk to the HOA. It was like hitting a wall. Not a normal wall. A wall that doesn't move. Doesn't respond. Doesn't care. And no matter how many times you try, you get the same result. Nothing. Meanwhile, the land was changing. Right in front of me. That open space. That quiet ground. Started to disappear. The soil was flattened. Pressed down by heavy machines. The natural shape of the land. Erased. The ground was reshaped. Measured. Adjusted. Prepared. And then, concrete. Poured in layers. What at first. Then slowly hardening. Turning something natural. Into something permanent. Day by day. Piece by piece. It kept growing. What once felt like a temporary problem started becoming permanent. And then, I saw it clearly. A structure. taking form. Not random, not rough, precise, planned, and not just any structure. A luxury pool. You could see it in the details. Tiles being placed carefully, clean, shiny, perfectly aligned. Lights being installed, not basic ones. Decorative, designed to stand out. Seating areas, arranged around the edges. Even small decorations, touches that weren't necessary, but added for style. They weren't just building something simple. This wasn't a basic community project. They were building something expensive, something designed to impress, something meant to attract attention. On my land, that reality hit harder with each passing day, because now it wasn't just about construction. It was about intention. They weren't confused. They weren't unsure. They were confident enough to invest time, money, effort into something they had no right to build. And the worst part? People started showing up before it was even finished, standing around, watching the progress, talking to each other, smiling, like they were excited, like they were proud, like it belonged to them. That feeling, watching strangers stand on your land, looking at something built on your property, and acting like it's theirs. It's hard to explain. It's not just anger. Anger fades. This was something else. Something deeper. Disrespect. Pure. Unfiltered. Disrespect. 2 weeks later, it was complete. And when I say complete, I mean perfect. Crystal clear water. Still. Reflecting the sky. Perfect design. Smooth edges. Clean lines. Everything ready. Like it had always been there. And just like that, they opened it. No hesitation. No delay. Families came in. Cars parked nearby. People walking in with towels. Kids running ahead. Excited. Laughing. Kids jumping into the water. Splashing. Shouting. People relaxing on the sides. Talking. Enjoying. Like it was a normal day. Like it had always been theirs. And I stood there, watching it all. Not saying anything. Not reacting. Just observing. Because by then, something had changed in me. I wasn't thinking about arguing anymore. I wasn't thinking about shouting or stopping them physically. That phase was over. Because clearly, that didn't work. Instead, I started thinking differently. I was thinking about something else. Something smarter. Something they wouldn't expect. Because sometimes, when direct action fails, you don't push harder. You change direction. That night, I went back to my documents. Not casually. Not quickly. Carefully. Every paper. Every line. Every detail. I didn't rush. I didn't assume. I checked everything again. Slowly. Making sure I didn't miss anything. Because now, this wasn't just about being right. It was about proving it. And that's when I found it. The truth. Not hidden. Not complicated. Clear as day. The entire pool was built inside my boundary. Not partially. Not slightly over the line. Not by mistake. Completely. Every inch of it. Inside my land. That moment changed everything. Because now, this wasn't just a situation. It was a position of power. Because legally, that meant one thing. I had control. Full control. Over everything they built. And suddenly, everything became clear. All the frustration. All the noise. All the waiting. It led to this. This one realization. And in that moment, I knew exactly what to do. Pause. Slower, deeper tone. I stopped arguing. Stopped reacting. Stopped trying to convince them. Because there was no point anymore. Instead, I started planning. Quietly. Carefully. Because sometimes, the best response is not immediate. It's not loud. It's not emotional. It's calculated. Precise. And unforgettable. And what I was about to do, they would never forget. That night was different. Not just quiet, but heavy. The kind of silence that feels like something is about to happen. No machines. No engines. No metal sounds echoing through the land. No workers. No voices. No movement. Just darkness. Stretching across everything. An opportunity. I stood there for a moment. Looking at it. That pool. Perfect. Untouched. Still. Like nothing had ever been wrong. Like it belonged there. But I knew better. I waited. Not rushing. Not reacting too quickly. Just watching. Listening. Making sure. Everything was clear. No cars. No footsteps. No unexpected movement. Because what I was about to do had to be precise. No mistakes. No witnesses. Just action. And then, I began. I brought a pump. Nothing complicated. Nothing expensive. Just something simple. But powerful enough to do exactly what I needed. I placed it carefully. Checked the connections. Took one last look around. And then, I turned it on. At first, it was just a low sound, barely noticeable. Then the water started moving. Slowly. At first, a thin stream, flowing out, spreading across the ground, disappearing into the dirt. And I stood there, watching it happen, not rushing it, not interfering, just letting it work. Minute by minute, the water kept flowing. Quietly. No attention. No noise. Just silent. Steady. Precise action. Hour by hour. The level dropped. That perfect surface started to change. The reflections disappeared. The shine faded. And what once looked like luxury started looking empty, drained, exposed. I didn't leave. I stayed there the whole time, watching every inch of it. Because this wasn't just an action. It was a message. And messages like this, you don't rush them. You let them unfold. Slowly. By midnight, half of it was gone. By early morning, it was empty. Completely empty. No water. No shine. No beauty. Just a hollow structure. And for a moment, I stood there in silence, looking at it. Because what used to be, something they were proud of, was now nothing. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because draining it was only half the story. The real message came next. I walked back and brought something else. Hey, simple, ordinary, the kind of thing you'd never expect. To be inside a luxury pool. I spread it across the bottom, layer by layer, covering the surface, changing its purpose, transforming it. And then, I opened the gate. No rush, no force, just a simple motion. And let them walk in. My cattle. Slowly, calmly, they stepped forward. No confusion, no hesitation, just instinct. They walked into what used to be a luxury pool, their hooves touching the concrete, their weight pressing down on the hay. And then, they stopped, lowered their heads, and started drinking, like it was nothing unusual, like it was just another water trough. Because to them, that's exactly what it was. No value, no design, no luxury, just water, just function. And in that moment, everything changed. Morning came. Slowly, the sky lightened, the darkness faded. And just like every day, people arrived, cars pulling in, doors opening, voices starting. But this time, something was different. They stopped, mid-step, mid-conversation, confused, shocked, silent, because what they expected was gone. No water, no pool, no perfect surface. Instead, they saw cattle, mud, hay, a complete transformation. One woman stepped forward, her expression changing quickly, from confusion to anger. What did you do? Her voice sharp, demanding. But I didn't react. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just looked at her, calm, steady, and said something simple. I used my property. That was it. No explanation. No emotion. Just truth. And sometimes, truth hits harder than anything else. The reaction was immediate. The HOA didn't stay quiet. They showed up. Fast. Voices raised. Threats thrown around. Warnings given. Talk of legal action. But this time, things were different. Because this time, I wasn't reacting. I was ready. I brought out the documents. Every paper. Every boundary line. Every proof. And I showed them. Clearly. Calmly. Without hesitation. And when they saw it, everything changed. Their confidence? Gone. Their tone? Lower. Their attitude? Different. Because now, they understood. They had no case. No argument. No defense. They had built something. On land. That wasn't theirs. And now, they had to deal with it. Within days, the pressure hit them. Legal pressure. Financial pressure. Reputation pressure. And suddenly, all that confidence turned into urgency. They had no choice. They removed everything. Every structure. Every addition. Every sign that it was ever there. They paid for the damage. Quietly. Without argument. Without delay. And after that, they stayed away. Far away. From my land. As for the pool, it never came back. Not again. Not even close. But for one moment. One perfect moment. It became something else. Something they never expected. A reminder. A clear, unforgettable reminder. That no matter how powerful someone thinks they are, no matter how confident they feel, they don't get to take what isn't theirs. Final slow, deep tone. And sometimes, it doesn't take a fight. It doesn't take noise. It doesn't take chaos. Sometimes, all it takes is one night, one decision, one action, to turn luxury into livestock.